People have brilliant minds, great ideas, but they're really rubbish at being able to get them across. We've been trained to think of communication as, I need to prove what I know. Fear comes from either not being in control of a situation. Fear can come from you actually not knowing what you're doing and talking about. So I like to break things down to build up on solid foundations. There's a triangle. It's called the hierarchy of the brilliant communicator. And in the triangle, at the bottom it says inform, and in the middle is educate. I call upon people to become the CEO of Credible You.
Nima Abu-Warda is one of the leading global experts in communication. She brings over 30 years of experience as an ex-BBC presenter, conducting over 10,000 interviews, and is here to help you change the way you think, write, and speak.
One of the biggest myths and misconceptions in the world of communication is around body language. The head curator for TED was asked this question: what's more important, what's being said or the way it's being said? Interest is about thinking, who is it that I want a yes from here? Warren Buffett is on record as saying, people who are better communicators increase their net worth by 40%.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hope It Helps. And guys, today I have someone on the show that I've been so excited to speak to. You know, we had a call, I think, maybe 6 months, a year ago now, and we connected. And just from that chemistry, like our introduction call, I'm like, man, one day, Nima, when you have the chance, when you're in Dubai, come on the show. And here we are, and she's here. So guys, please welcome to the show, Miss Nima Abu-Warda. Nima, welcome to the show.
Hello, it is so good to be here.
Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it, and for visiting us here in Dubai. So Nima, as you know, we've had a bit of a conversation before, and we were just speaking off camera now. So you are a communications expert. Now, guys, for the people who don't know, Nima's got quite the CV. She's spoken all over the world. She was an ex-presenter for the BBC, a career spanning over 20 years, interviewed over 10,000 people, and now she's started her own thing, being a public speaking coach and a mentor to help. And I know you've trained with C-level executives all over the world. So for today, Nima, as you know, communication is the bedrock of everything that's going on, and especially where the world is heading now. It's almost more important than ever to be able to deliver your message in a clear, concise, impactful way. So what I wanted to do today, I've had a public speaking expert on the podcast before, so I want to pull in from what we discussed and bring that into our conversation and kind of give people the toolbox on how they can start, at the end of this episode, becoming better communicators, immediately. But before we get into all of that, Nima, why don't you give all of us a little bit of background about yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, so just for you to know and to set the scene,
yes,
this is about changing the way you think, write, and speak. So public speaking is one element of how you show up in the world. The biggest thing I took away from my 30 years, by the way, I'm really, on stage and on TV, is that people have brilliant minds, great ideas, but they're really rubbish at being able to get them across in a way that's interesting, relevant, that makes people go, oh, wait a minute, that's what I need, that kind of thing. Because if you think about it, the only thing you ever do when you're communicating is you're doing it because you want something from someone. And to simplify, you want a yes. Yes, buy your product, book the call, become the client of the podcast guy, whatever that thing is. Or yes to your spouse. Can we negotiate this? Can we not spend on that? Can we spend on that, right? So it's always a yes that you're after. So that's one thing. The other thing is, so in terms of just being on stage and chairing or asking the questions when there's a panel discussion that I'm chairing, people lose huge opportunities because they're in front of their ideal stakeholder, client, whoever they want the yes from, but they don't speak in a way that's interesting and relevant to them. Huge loss. My TV program went out to 200 million people. Wow. So when somebody passed up the opportunity to be on it, and we'll come on to that in a minute, or when somebody was metaphorically kicked off because they were rubbish, either they were on it and they were rubbish, they lost the opportunity, or they were interviewed and they were edited out or edited down, they lost 200 million people, hello. So that is Imagine what that does for your brand and your future if you get the right yes, yeah? So that's one thing. How can I help people not lose out on these opportunities? But the other thing is that I used to chair competitions. It could be internal competitions for corporates where they'd say, hey, we've got some pot of money and we want different teams to come up with great ideas. Could be CSR back in the day, or it could be anything. Who gets the money? It could be an external thing where I've had founders pitch and play off against each other for funding. Who gets the money? Is it the person with the brilliant idea or the person who is a brilliant communicator? Guess. It's a brilliant communicator, isn't it? And so I just thought, like there was this last one that I did where the most fantastic idea, I thought, in my opinion, didn't get the light of day because the people presenting it were nervous, anxious, didn't know how to pique interest. So there are huge losses that happen in life. If it's you and your career, you and your business, you lose out, your potential is down the drain. If it's something that you can help other people with, that potential is down the drain because you didn't help the people that you wanted to help because you got the no, yeah? So there you go. I've literally whittled it all down into very practical things that people can do, and you can, if you want me to just go on and tell you what my biggest lessons are, I'm happy to. If you want to ask me the questions, you go ahead.
Sure. So I think first of all, thank you for giving us that context, but I think you started from the beginning with a very important point. We have a misconception that communication is all about speaking, only about speaking, but you talked about writing, you talked about all that kind of stuff. So the coach I had on the show a couple of months ago, shout out Leopold, love you, bro. Thank you for all the help you've done. He's awesome. He told me something that really stuck with me and kind of touches on what you said. He's like, communication is not a monologue, but a dialogue. And when he said that, I'm like, okay, in a conversation, that makes a lot of sense. But what he talked about was that's also in, for example, how are you communicating on social media, your website, how are you writing posts on LinkedIn. So I think we need to start with showing people that communication is multifactorial, not just about speaking to each other.
For me, the way I've simplified it, by the way, these are fantastic points because it is about who is it I'm talking to, yeah? I'll give you an example. I had some maintenance work done once, and I wish I'd taken a photo of the van, because on the van, big letters, it said, building our success, instead of building your best home, for example, or, helping you because, oh, great, thanks. But that's the thing. Everybody is trained, the default mode is, what do? I need to prove how credible and clever I am. So I've just come from a day of training leaders in one of the world's biggest companies. To a person, they did two core mistakes, let's just call it out. One is, when they are given an open-ended question, let's say, what do you do? Really simple. They answer in a literal way. My name is such and such. I am heading up this for this company. Who cares? The answer should be something like, what we know is that people, corporates, decision makers lose out on this. We help them shortcut to the right thing by doing that. So it's benefit result first. And that applies whether you're speaking to anyone, right? Because if you don't address what's in it for them first, nobody's listening to the next sentence. Really simple. But it actually starts with how you think. When you can very quickly organize your thoughts in a way that goes, it's like a shing, who am I talking to? What's their biggest pain, problem, thing that I can help with? How can I help them? I really want them to know about this because it'll do this for them. It's a genuine I know this. I want you to know it because it does this for you. 1, 2, if you can really quickly populate it with, this is a really relevant example that they'll relate to, that'll interest them, that shows them what I'm talking about. And if you can have that little thing in your brain that goes, this is what I'm talking about, fine, but this is the person and this is their problem and issue. So I'll start with that. And this is how I'll show them. And then at the end, this is how we can work together to fix it. On the way here, there was a massive billboard on repeat, which is is it the Galaxy?
Oh, the Samsung.
With Samsung,
yeah.
I can't remember. I mean, it doesn't, like for me, I went to private something. What is it? What does it say? Private privacy.
First, I'm not sure.
It's literally, it's a phone, and it's saying to the world, no one can, this is a private interaction. Safari. Is it Safari?
Is it Safari is Apple?
Okay. Anyway, so there you go. I really took notice of this.
Well, you got the billboard, though, so that's
got
right.
the billboard.
Yeah.
So the point is that they're not saying, hey, buy our latest product or download our app. They're saying, you want privacy, we give it to you. That's it. Okay, I can't remember who it is, but I know now, if I want privacy, I need to look that thing up and get it. What people forget is, we've been trained to think of communication as, I need to prove what I know. You passed school, got great grades in school, university degrees, whatever profession you're in. By proving, you can pull up the stats and the facts. You're regurgitating. Nobody is paying attention to what you're saying. They're only paying attention when you do something for them. Teachers were paid to mark your work. University tutors were paid to notice what you've shared and written. Nobody else cares about what you share unless there's something in it for them. And that's not a horrible thing to say. It's the truth. Yeah.
100, and that's such an important point, and it really hit home for me because I went through this process in the last, I think, 6 months. So for years of running the show, people would ask me and they'd be like, Khalid, what's the show about? So I'd be like, oh, I speak to lots of people. I just want to learn, and I could tell, and you know this, when you're explaining something, whether it's I was explaining my podcast or selling the business, I'd walk away from those conversations and even I would think to myself, I'm like, I know that didn't land. Like, I can tell it didn't land. They're like, okay, cool, very nice, but like, that's it. And I have an executive coach that I work with, and he was telling me, Zakhar, okay, so what's the podcast? What do you do? What's the business? And everything I told him was exactly what you were talking about. I was saying him the what. I am Khalid. I can do this for you. I can da-da-da-da-da. I can, produce your podcast, whatever. And he's like, yeah, but I'm the client. Okay. Like, I don't give a shit about what you can do. What's in it for me? And I think when you don't start from that mindset, you've already shot yourself in the foot. And you touched on school, and this is the thing that fucks me off so much because we were taught to memorize. That's why typically we memorize scripts. We were taught I have to memorize, say every word in the script instead of telling the story. And that really takes away from, I don't care if the data says this. I don't care about how did I feel when you said that? What's the message that you want me to want to bring into it? So I think we need to kind of stop, as you put it, stop drinking our own Kool-Aid. But the question is, it seems like it's a lot easier said than done to untrain these habits.
It's so difficult. I have a master's in medical engineering because I'm interested in how the brain works, how we function as humans, what makes us remember things, the physiological side of stuff. It's really interesting to me. And funnily enough, I've managed to bring everything I've done over my lifetime and what I'm interested in into my current work, which is how do we simplify the complex? How do we make it practical? How do we show people why it's important to them? And what physiological hacks, shortcuts, I actually don't like the word hack, but shortcuts can we make that'll help this happen? Example, our perspective will always dominate because we are human. It's like the building my success, as opposed to helping you fix the leak.
Exactly, yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah, the leadership training I was just doing, all of them started with what their company wants. We at X company want this. Actually, who cares? I mean, and you're very expensive. No. So instead, they need to think, we shortcut that. We help you save on this, etc. And this is why it's important. And we've got the unique expertise because of that. Yeah. You, for example, have the unique insight into, I've made all the mistakes. I can actually shortcut your path to a brilliant setup and how you can carve out your corner in the information market, right? The way I do it is with people is I get them to got a piece of paper, you can do it now, line down the middle, put down my perspective, my stakeholder's perspective. I don't like the word stakeholder, but it's the easiest shortcut to client, partner, person I need a yes
audience,
from.
I
Doesn't
guess,
matter who it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who do I want a yes from? Whose attention do I want right now? You put down your perspective, which from the builder's point of view is, I am building my company. I want money. I want a good reputation, for example, simplifying. From his client's perspective, who was me at that point, wants the leak fixed, doesn't want to spend more than is needed, wants it done as quickly as possible, right? So when you dump your perspective and it's out of you, you've actually let it go, it's there, it's parked. It doesn't need to poison the way you then interact. It doesn't need to dominate and come first. Because what you want to do is you want to shift your focus to the perspective of the person you want a yes from or attention from. And when you start with that, they're paying attention. Nobody will get to the next sentence, let alone half hour down the line, if you don't keep on getting buy-in. You get buy-in, and then you get buy-in again, and then get buy-in again. I don't like buzzwords. Storytelling is a word I don't like.
Okay.
And hook is a word I don't like. Why? When we use words over and over again, but we don't define what we mean by them, they become meaningless, and we use them without making sure, checking in that the other person has the same definition as us. So when I say hook to you, as an example, I know what it means, you know what it means, but other people might have a different perception of what that means. Very simply, hook equals how can I get their interest? Plus, hook doesn't tell me how do I hook? But when I say how to get their interest, it tells you I need to get that. So I like to define the word and the term. Storytelling. Why do I have a problem with storytelling? One, I believe there is a storytelling mafia out there now, which says to you, you are condemned. You are rubbish at this because you don't perfect storytelling. Right? Would you agree?
When you put it in that way, I'm like, yeah, I've seen a lot of that. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
True.
And then it's like, there's this arc and there's the hero and there's the blah and then there's a resolution. Great. It's true. We as humans love story, yes. It's true that a story is a wonderful way to get information across. But let's go to the core. What's the purpose of story? The purpose is, in this context that we live, to convey information in a way that benefits you, gets your interest, so that I get my result. I mean, this is really simplifying.
Yeah.
And it sounds so cold and calculating, and it is.
It is, though. Underlying it is. When you drill it down, that's what it comes down to.
But that is life. I mean, whether you're buying a chocolate bar or executive training or whatever you're doing, actually that is the very basis, the simplified version of the transaction that's at play. Plus, do you think, my program was half an hour. Okay, so I used to do a business and finance program, my last TV program, that spanned Iran to Morocco, Turkey to Sudan, huge part of the world. It was called Middle East Business Report. I'm laughing because it says what it does on the tin. Really creative, Middle East Business Report. But you have half an hour to sum up the region's news. You have an audience of 200 million people, a potential audience. We can get onto that because, of course, that was what it was broadcast to. Not everybody watched, yeah?
Sure.
We had a smaller sliver of that who would watch every week because it was pertinent, interesting, informative to them. So am I going to waste precious minutes on somebody giving me a story arc? Never. I create the story arc in my report, for example. Somebody beating a piece of metal. This is Muhammad. He is Morocco's #1 blah blah person, and it's passed down generations. And this is why it's, whatever, you can go through that. But the people I'm interviewing, they need to cut to the chase. They need to tell me, why is this important? How many people suffer, get benefit, have died, whatever. Why is this happening? Get to the point. When I just judged a competition recently in England for a speaker award thing, and there was 2 entries that I was judging. One was the virtual speaker of the year, and I can't remember the other one, but it was about how interesting, there are certain metrics and things that you evaluate against, and I could see how people misunderstand this idea of story. They think they need to follow a traditional story arc which eats up time, which if you don't make it really relevant to the person that you want on board in the first literally line, you've lost. And it doesn't matter how great a storyteller you are if you don't leave somebody with something relevant to them at the end. And so these people lost out on huge opportunities to win, to be the nominated, to be the second runner, whatever. But also if somebody's listening to them, it's like, what? Why am I listening to this? That was a waste of my time. So to cut to the chase, I don't like the word story because I feel that people have abused the word and it's become like I'm shit at this, it's my fault. No, story isn't serving your purpose in the traditional sense. My definition of story is different. It's the idea of it is communicating in a way that gets across your point in a way that's interesting. Your story is the data, the case studies, the results that you get for people that you work with. Those are your stories. So don't be afraid to just use them.
No, absolutely. And it's interesting that you look at storytelling with a negative context, but until you explained why, it kind of made sense, because naturally, I think when you say like, oh, you need to become a better storyteller, it discounts the fact that you are, as humans, naturally, we are storytellers. We are born storytellers. From day one, we learn we all hear stories, we tell stories. Now it's just technique refinement. So to say you're not a good storyteller might be unfair to say, and might even push you away from, or maybe add to the fear that you already have of saying the right thing.
And it's your fault. You are rubbish. It's you know, yeah.
Exactly. And the point you made about the audience and thinking of it from their perspective, so, and talking about like the hooks and all that stuff. So when I've started speaking and doing panels over this past year, and I remember the first speech I gave was last December to like 150 people. So I gave my speech, and then I had that coach on the show. So I asked him, if you have some time, could we watch it? And we watched it, and we sat through, and he's like, I'm going to be brutal with you. I'm like, okay. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. I'm like, shit, but that's what I want, because I know I'm not doing, everything
Kill
correctly.
the ego.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, with change, with training, with all this kind of stuff, I think there's an element to become a better communicator. There's an element of time. As we were talking...
It's putting in the reps, actually.
Exactly.
So time can be condensed. You see, it's about... Okay, so again, I don't like a lot. I just don't like stuff, okay? But the word confidence is a word I do not like. Why? Because it can be weaponized. It can be used to hit you over the head. Example, that person didn't get the promotion, the project, the contract, because they don't have the confidence. But nobody tells you what the hell that actually is. You're like, oh, well, what is it exactly that you didn't like about me or the way what is it? Confidence. So it's a sweeping statement that doesn't do you any good, yeah?
Yes.
And let's be frank, it's an easy word to say to just not give you something.
Yeah,
How do you define it?
Yeah, of course.
So I like to break things down to build up on solid foundations. I have my 3 C's to manufacture confidence. You have to be credible. If you're not credible, go away. Become credible, get the skills, the expertise, do the work. That's on you. Comfortable. To be comfortable, it means like, I am really comfortable in my own skin. When you first started, when we all first start, we're really shit at what we're doing, right? Because we haven't done it before, and that's okay.
Yeah.
If we're able to put in many reps in a short period of time, it does loads of stuff actually. One, so what the brain does is protect us. Oh, you're going to die if you do that thing. It's new, it's strange, you've never done it, don't do it. But if you step into that space of being brave and scared at the same time, and you don't die, your brain goes, oh, you didn't die. Oh, wow, okay then, I'll help you next time. And it actually releases, your physiology changes basically, and your chemical inside changes to help you do that thing again without the same level of horror and anxiety. And then again, so it's an actual physiological change that happens, and your brain helps you each time. So the more reps you do and the shorter the time between them. So if you did one talk 1 year and then you waited another year, you're starting from scratch again, right? But if you have a community of people, for example, who are doing the same thing as you, and you can help each other, be there together, or you work one-on-one with somebody who's got this stuff, you're putting in reps in a different way, again, because you're getting the instant feedback, and next time I will do my best to remember this. You don't beat yourself up if you don't remember,
Yeah, of course.
But so reps help. And the third C is consistent. What do I mean? I bet you most people, when they hear the word consistent, will think, oh, I need to post consistently on social media, for example. There's a link, an immediate link. That's not what I'm talking about, which is why it's important to define terms. I mean, if you say you want to be the go-to person for a certain expertise, and you're offered the opportunity to share it, you say yes. I'll give you an example. You see, that is my storytelling. I'll give you an example. I'm just saying this so that you understand that we always tell stories, but it's about how we condemn self or others for not doing it. Right. I'll give you an example. 2 people, mega industry conference, annual conference. They were approached to give talks at this specific conference. They said no, because they didn't feel ready, they were scared, whatever, and they passed it on. When I was doing my TV program, I'd spend a heck of a lot of time trying to find the right interview, the right person for that specific need, that week's story. If they said no to me, do you think I would go back to them again?
No, absolutely not.
The people in the conference, do you think the conference organizer the people are going to bother approaching those 2 people again?
No.
No. So if you don't have consistency between what you want to be known for and do more of, and saying yes to the right opportunities for you, are you the go-to person for that or not? Do you want to do more of this or not? Do you want people to come to you for these things or not? There's no consistency in terms of what I am saying I want to and do and know, and how you're showing up to the world. Say yes, and then get in touch, and I'll help you.
So you said consistency, credibility, and what was the third one?
Comfortable.
Comfortable, okay.
So the comfortable one piece is really important, by the way, because this is what everything stems from. If you are comfortable, literally in your own skin, people are comfortable around you. If you show up anxious, even if you think you're masking it, it leaks out of your body. Do you know that cortisol, it actually leaks out of you and it permeates your skin into the next person's skin, and everybody feels uncomfortable even though they don't know why? Yeah. So the comfort piece, critical, but you cannot have the comfort if you don't have the credibility unless you're insane. Okay. And you're totally ego-driven and you're drinking your own Kool-Aid the whole time. And if you don't show up in a consistent way, which aligns with, feeds into, I am the go-to for this, I am the right person for that, then you're wasting your time and your life's potential, poof, gone.
So where does, I bet you hate this term then, because I
Never
guess
know.
goes against everything you just said, fake it till you make it.
There's an element to that.
Oh,
absolutely.
Okay.
Thank God for that.
Because everyone has, I've watched many different things that say, some people really support it, you have to believe it, act it, speak it, and then you will become it. And then there's others that say that's complete bullshit. So where does it fake it till you make it fit into this? Because if I need to be credible, I can't fake it. If I want to be comfortable, okay, maybe I can fake it for a while and get comfortable, and then the consistency, I can fake it a lot of times. But when there's also I think there's like a track. I fake, but then when am I not faking it anymore either?
Okay. So the 3 C's come together to literally you're manufacturing your own confidence. Because you can see now that it's set out in that way that C1 plus 2 plus 3, credible has to start with that, comfortable has to have that, but I have to keep stepping into that.
Yeah.
And consistent, you can see immediately how it fits, and that equals I'm confident by default. So you're not manufacturing it when you are the 3 C's. You are it.
Great
right?
point.
Right?
Great
You
point.
are.
Yes.
I am. As opposed to, I kind of am, but I'm not there yet. Yeah. Amy Cuddy, who is the person who started this whole fake it till you make it public discourse. So I don't know if you're familiar with her.
I'm not, actually.
She is somebody who did research around this, and it was things around power posture. You make your body bigger, and there's a physiological change on the inside, and the results are unbelievable, according to her initial study, which, to simplify, they did, for example, had 2 groups. One group wasn't given the power posing and so on, and the other group was, just before a critical job interview. They didn't know they were part of the study, and they were being monitored in this way. And the people interviewing them didn't know which group had done the physical power posing before the interview. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
2 groups of people, they're all going for job interviews. Nobody knows, the people being interviewed or the interviewers, which ones have been given the stuff to do by Amy Cuddy's group. One half are given power poses, the other half are just get on with it and do your own way. The stats were remarkable. I cannot remember the exact figure, but I mean, very significant. The people who had done the power poses were the ones who were chosen for the job. And when the interviewers were asked, how come, what feedback? Well, yeah, it was a sense of the person. They knew what they were talking about. They were credible. We felt a safe pair of hands, the right person for the role. These are all very sort of like rubbish, they're not exactly solid metrics, but actually that's what life is based on. Yeah. I trust you. So, and just on that note, I was speaking to one of the key decision makers who decides which founders to fund. Okay, they give a lot of money, and you know what he said to me? He said, body language. I like to get a feel. I look at the person and I think, how are they? What are they like? How do they come across? I'll tell you a bit about that in a minute. But the point is that person, he's not deliberately going into that room thinking, how's that person standing? But he realizes when he reflects that he gravitates towards the people who feel comfortable in themselves and they own their space, because that's what it translates to, yeah? So the fake it till you make it is an interesting one, because you do have to push yourself out of your comfort zone and your boundary. If you remember the idea of the brain giving you a signal, don't do it, but then you do it and it goes, oh, you did it.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
And then I'll help you next time. That's kind of like fake it till you make it, right? My issue with that phrase, though, is if you don't have the first C, go away. You have to...
You can't fake the credibility, I guess.
Yeah, how the hell do you fake credibility? You can't, right? If you're not the real deal, go away. Like, I will not work with people who do not have the credibility piece, because that's the foundation. You have nothing to build on. But if you don't have the communication piece, you have nothing to build with. Because communication is how you show up in the world and how people decipher you, figure you out, get a feel for you. I don't do communications. Communications is a PR thing. It's a different thing to me because I've worked with PR firms, okay? And what a lot of them do is they've got keywords that the client wants to say, repeat. They've got a phase that they're in. There's a launch going on. There's a something. If you drill people on what they should say, but they don't have the building blocks of how to communicate effectively with impact and influence, one, somebody like me comes along and cuts out all the keywords because they are boring, irrelevant, not interesting to the situation we're in. Two, even if they're not cut out, say it's a live stage thing, whatever, people are cutting them out because it's boring, not interesting, like, what was that? Why am I listening to this? Three, I just was, like I said, in this leadership training, and what they think is, if I say my keyword over and over again, say innovation, the brain picks up on words on repeat. So if you have a verbal tick, for example, you say, basically, let's say basically a lot. If I said basically every other sentence, your brain would start like, I wonder what she's going to say basically again. So you're actually not listening to the rest of it. It picks up, it highlights that. And it's annoying because it kind of dismisses a lot of context.
That's so interesting.
It's a nervous tick that you notice. If the word innovation is said 5 times in the first 2 sentences, that's what your brain is like, innovation. But you're not getting the context around it. It's annoying and it's irrelevant. What the hell does innovation mean anyway? You need to define the term and tell me why it's important for me. So we've gone around a big loop, but it is the idea of fake it. How do you define it? If you're defining it the way I would, which is there is something really uncomfortable that I need to do to get to my next success, then you do that. And if that means that you need to take, a shot of espresso and then do it, you do it. You put in the reps. The more you do that with the right feedback and feedback loop, so it's external feedback from the right person and internal feedback loop, like, when I do this, it feels so much better. When I prep in this way, it feels so much better. When I say things in this way, the audience really likes it. Feedback loops. Then the next time, it's less of the fake it, isn't it? But the biggest problem is, when is enough enough? Because when you get comfortable doing one thing,
great question.
you want to do the next thing. Oh, I did that. A podcast. I'm really good at that. Now I want to do a video on my own. And in fact, building with video is the best thing to do. I don't know why you think it is. I'd love to know why you think it's great. I think it's great because it's the shortest route to familiarity with a person. They get a feel for you, how you are, your way, how you come across, whether they want to hear more from you or not. It makes you really realize how you string things together. I'm really shit at saying that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 100. And this is on the feedback loop. That's such an important piece in becoming a better communicator. And as we were talking before, I edit all my podcasts. So I've watched not only spoken for hours, I've listened to myself for hundreds and hundreds of hours. And it's always like, oh, fuck, I could have dove better on that point. Maybe I interrupted too much. Maybe it wasn't. So it is a constant evolution. And sometimes I might finish a recording and be like, yeah, that wasn't my best performance. And I might go watch the recording and be like, oh, wasn't that bad, but I want to improve on these areas. The point you touched on about perception. Okay, so there's the famous saying, your perception is your reality, right? It's crazy how true that is. So I had someone on the show and we talked about, she's a career coach. And we're talking about, she's like, in the corporate world, perception is more important than your performance. And when she said that, because I had an example of that, from my past, I was working in this company and we were on this training program. If you looked at me from a performance, we're all about the same plus minus. But the perception of me wasn't great. And definitely I was definitely at fault for that because it took me a while to learn how to be in a corporate environment.
You're not at fault. It's not your fault. You weren't ever told or taught or modeled this.
Well, fair. So
it's not your fault.
Fair. But I do take accountability for my role in that.
Yeah.
And that taught me that I'm like, so even you could have the best sales guy, bringing in numbers, the best whatever. If there's a perception about you, two things. Number one, it's kind of fixed. And this kind of touches on changing perceptions or that famous thing, you can't change a first impression, or can you?
Well, I like to say you don't get a second chance at a first impression.
Well, fair. Yeah, true.
Right, because it's a one-time shot. That's it.
Exactly, yeah.
However, you can modify the way people perceive you, right?
Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what people talk about a lot, for example, when it comes to public speaking and all the stuff that we're talking, let's call it the visible way that you show up in a situation. It could be on video, on a stage, or in a meeting. And a lot of people will talk about presence.
Yeah.
Presence. What is your presence? Like how do you come across? It's really important. And if you think about it, it all comes from the 3 C's. If you've got your 3 C's nailed, your presence is lovely by default. Because you're showing up as your credible, comfortable, consistent self. You see how it all loops back? Why is this important? It's important because a perception of you is created in the mind of the other, in the stakeholder, the person you want a yes from. Now, there are 2 elements. Again, I'm simplifying here. 2 elements to perception. One element pivots on how you show up, stuff you control, you take ownership of, which is what you're saying that I was at fault, right? But there's a whole bunch of other stuff to do with perception, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff to do with perception that you have no control over because it's about what's going on in the mind of the other person. And it's based on their past interactions with you, their past interactions with people they think are like you, their upbringing, their cultural referencing, a bad day they had, whatever. It's stuff that is not to do with you, but they're extrapolating and they're making micro decisions and judgments that affect the rest of your life.
True.
If it's a key decision, right? So what the hell can you do about this? You cannot, don't even go there. You cannot dive into the workings of somebody else's mind. That's a lose situation. What you can do is take ownership of how you show up. When your name is brought up, so this person that you've just had the interaction with, who's got this other stuff going on, and they've made it a perception, but I gave that person just like this a chance and they messed up, for example. But then you're brought up in another meeting or down the corridor and somebody says, I just had a chat with Khalid. Oh yeah, Khalid's great at, and the other person says. So that other person has a slightly different perception of you and has seen you in a different context. And that's how you can chip away at a different decision maker's perception of you. Does that make sense? So it becomes the cumulative, and because then that person goes, oh yeah, no, I do notice that about Khalid. Oh yeah, So at the root of this, one, people's perception of you rules your world. It is the difference between you getting the yes or the no. Part of that is what you do to take ownership of your 3 C's. Part of that is whatever the hell's going on in that person's life and mind that you have no input on, nothing, okay?
I think an important point to just add on to what you're talking about, Nima, here is perception. I think a lot of times people think it's their job to change their perception of me. No, it's actually my responsibility to change your perception of me, because I love what you said, and sorry to interrupt you, by the way, because it just hit a story when I went through this experience. So when I was when I was younger, I was known as, the party guy. Khalid always just wants to talk about having fun. Where are we partying, guys? What are we doing? And then I asked my friends once, my really close friends, I'm like, guys, do people take me seriously? Because I was wondering, and they're like, Khalid, honestly, no. We don't think so, because all you talk about is partying. Like, people might bring up something serious and you're like, no, I don't talk about that. Let's just where we're going to go have fun. But they told me you can be serious. We've had serious conversations in more intimate settings. And if my closest friends are telling me that means the rest of the world must think the same thing. So it was
more than that, because they don't have
even that, and that played, and this was all around the time with that job too. So that it was a big wake the fuck up, Khalid. Yeah, we got to change because this is not working out. Yeah.
Or rather, it's not getting you what you want at that point.
Well, yeah.
Because that's
true.
the thing.
Yeah.
So part of what my mission is at the moment is calling upon people to be deliberate and intentional about what they want to be known for and do more of. If you were happy being the party guy, hey, that's fine. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Hey, yeah, that's me and I want to do more of it, yay. But if you realize that that's actually holding you back, and it could be, example, let me give you real examples from the corporate world. Yeah, for example, one person known for a specific skill wants to upskill to another skill that pays more, but people keep coming to her for the first skill. What does that do for her? Many things. One, it holds her back from her next success, because her next success is the upskill that she knows and can do, but people keep, because she's good at it and she's known for it, right? Oh, she can do that. Yeah, go-to person. Damn, she's not earning as much as she could. Damn, she's not perceived as this other skilled person, the go-to for that in people's minds. What does she do? Okay, my fix was very simple, and we can get onto that if you want to, but the point is that really holds people back, yeah?
100%, yeah.
2, very different. Mum gives birth, head of HR, who is also a mum, and this is relevant for this reason, says, the best person for this external training, it was a huge big deal, one person from the company's going, and it was going to be flown out to another country and do this magnificent bit of training, but she's just given birth. I won't offer it to her. Because why? The head of HR made a judgment call that was based on her. The perception that she had created about this new mum is, when I was a new mum, I did not want to travel. I did not want to go. So I'm not going to offer it to her as a kindness. And then she kicked herself. We actually had a meeting that day, me and her, and we had this discussion because it's about perception, reality. And I always say, discover, don't decide. Discover what the other person needs and wants, Don't decide on their behalf.
That's such great advice.
Right? So she went, oh my God, I've just made a decision that affects her future and her life. Let me go and have a discover session. So they had a chat and they decided the training will happen in the summer when her other children were on holiday. The whole family goes. She does the training, comes back, happy ending, right? Discover, don't decide. Don't make assumptions based on your bias, perception, what's right, what this person wants, right? And the third example I will give is of somebody who has left their role in the corporate world because they were being offered something different. It's to do with regulatory change and the expertise that this person has. And this person thought, actually, I don't want to do that, this thing that I'm being offered as my next role. I want to be known for this specific things. I want to lean into that. And so right now, this person is, what we're doing is co-creating the keynote that he's going to be giving at a conference that cements their next success. I am the go-to person for this. I want the interest of the CFOs, in this case, in the audience, and I'm speaking to that. And at the end, my call to action will mean that they will come to me for the thing that I'm brilliant at and I can help them with. Do you see?
Yeah.
So the point is, I'm all about communication. What does that mean? My whole job is really simple, actually, but is it? Because it's about simplifying the complex. It's about how do you get across what you want, need, know, do in a way that interests the other party, the party that you want a yes from. Sounds really simple, doesn't it? It is when you break it down. But it's really difficult because we're dealing with humans who are irrational, erratic, a pain in the backside, you know, what? Yeah. But it is about breaking it down into building blocks of, I know this, how can I do it?
Yeah.
One, so my big call to action is, people, communication is the currency of your success. How you communicate is how people perceive you, is what they take away from you and what they decide you are. You can have the best idea, brain, everything. If you cannot get them interested, forget it. That's it. Game over, right? Yeah. One. But there's a second part to this. The only thing you own is what you know and can do. That's the only thing you don't own anything, actually. Think about that. Nothing, yeah? Take ownership of it.
Yeah.
So I call upon people to become the CEO of Credible You.
Oh, I love that.
So it's a role,
I love that.
A mission, an identity. And you do that whether you work for somebody else or you work for yourself. I am the CEO of Credible Me. Mm. When you do that and you marry it with the 3 C's, the way you show up is different. And it's the I am energy. I am the expert in this. There's somebody who worked with me who is a founder and got through to the first time we went through this and the I am, because it's all like, when I get this, I will be. Actually, wait a minute. You are this expert. You have this product. You've actually started this company. What are you talking about? You don't. You would like the funding. You would like the person to say yes to you. But you are this, whether they say yes or no.
Yeah.
When you come and show up in the world, and by the way, this is with job interviews, doesn't matter, with I am energy, people suddenly want a piece of you. Ooh, because it's I am married with you or without you. I am doing this with you or without you.
With you or without you energy is very powerful.
Yeah.
Because especially when it comes to like a deal, even when you're in a business setting, you're building a business, even like I am, sometimes I'll have meetings with clients and I'll be like, yes, we want to build a business, but at the same time, I don't have to take this decision. We don't have to work together. And this kind of comes back to what you're talking about, and I think there's an underlying thing behind everything we've discussed, which is fear. Now, fear comes from a lot of different places. And I know that what makes us the most scared, as you put it, is we don't look like a fool. No one wants to look like a fool. But in order to get anywhere, you will risk looking like a fool to get there. And I think I had someone on the podcast actually just a few days ago, and we were talking about, she mentioned, she's like, you have to have the bravery to communicate and to reinvent yourself and to express your thoughts in the right way. But with that, the question I had is, why is there a bravery aspect behind it? I'm just saying what I think. No, because to be brave and to express honestly and clearly, you're at the risk of being judged too. So I guess first I want to touch on how you help clients get over this fear piece. But taking a step back first, when you started your career and you know speaking on the BBC and whatever, the stakes on that could not be higher. So I'm curious, in the early parts of your career, how did you get over that fear?
I'm laughing because, oh my goodness, some of my early stuff.
Everything's any of your first stuff's always cringeworthy as fuck. My podcasts are too, so I resonate with that 100%.
But in my case, it was I would speak at the speed of light, you know, because you want to. It's because of the way I did my work though as well, because the work that I did was on location. So I did the whole, you know, in a studio stuff for years. Fine, park that. It's a different set of skills and stresses in studio versus on location, when you have to, maybe you've got one take only, it's alive, for example. You know, you're standing in Davos, for example, the World Economic Forum things, and you're beaming in live to the main news feed, and you've got your guest there, and it's like, oh, what's my brain going to do? Because, of course, it's the in the moment thing. It's a different thing you're talking about to the thing you were talking about just 30 minutes ago. 100%. And what's his name again? The person that you're going to introduce. It could be anything you need to remember and that you could get a freeze. Oh, I can't remember that. What am I saying? I'm saying that we've all, in order to get to where we want to be, we have to go through some shit. You know, you have to do some things. Unless you just want the comfort zone of where you are. If you're one of these people who wants to stay where you are, this isn't the podcast for you, is it, Khaled?
No, not at all.
This is just stop watching now. You know?
Yeah, not at all.
Like I say to people, if you're not credible, don't bother with the rest of this because I'm not your person.
100%.
Simple, right? If you want to get somewhere that's interesting for you or important to you, there are skills and things that you will, a stretch thing, a real fear, a huge fear that you need to go through. I like to break things down. So it's about, okay, what's the thing that is the most in the moment issue here? Is it that, I can't remember the person's name, you know, what is it? Is it that I have to hold on to my show notes and I don't want to put them down because they're nice to hide behind? You know, what is your specific fear? I don't like sweeping terms.
Yeah.
So I have a thing that I call DB2B. Define it, D, break it down into the small parts, to build it up on solid foundation. Don't say anxious, stress, fear. Tell me where it comes from and what it is in that situation, in that moment. Is it looking out at a sea of people staring back at you? Is it the bright light? By the way, like every time I do media training, just the minute the light goes on, ka-chink, everybody goes into freeze mode. Oh, I can't speak any language now, you know? So, you know, these are real things, right?
Of course, absolutely.
So break it down so that you can help yourself build it back up. What is it you would love to know from me about this stuff that we're talking about right now? Like you're talking about the career thing. Is it about how did I get through it? You know, like what's the most interesting thing for you?
For me, it's because what we're talking about here is, you know, speaking and communication, and fear is probably one of the main things that holds people back from being able to, from taking that opportunity to speak on stage, from going on a podcast, from, you know, starting creating video content. So, and you had to overcome your fear of like communication and speaking in environments that are at the highest stakes.
Unforgiving.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you can't, in this podcast, we can mess up, whatever, it's fine. But how did you build, I guess that, again, I know it comes back to the 3 C's, but was it a moment? Was it a story? Was it an accumulation?
Yeah.
You know, when did you feel like, now I'm not scared anymore? Well, or I'm sure there's always some level of anxiety or something, you know, when you are presenting something.
I know. The discomfort, which could be manifested as a bit of fear, a bit of, you know, like that thing. Yeah. It's when I'm not comfortable with something, meaning For example, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, which of course that wouldn't happen because the credibility piece is so important to me, right?
Of course,
like if I don't know what I'm talking about, what the fuck am I doing on this stage then?
100%, yeah.
So that's one. I'll give you an example. I was chairing something, I can't remember what it was now, and there was a delay, and there were going to be people announced as winners of this big thing, and we didn't know who they were. Like something hadn't come through. Some key piece of information had not come through. And the PR people were panicking. So they came to me. They were really scared because they were like, we're late, people are getting, there's unrest, and we want you to propel you, bing, onto the stage to say anything just to make it okay. All right, so I, first of all, didn't let their fear smother me. That's on them because it was their organization, everything that was on them. There's nothing to do with me. And I drew a boundary around what I will and won't do. I need this, get me this, and absolutely. But you're the gatekeeper to that information. I need it so that I can go on stage. If I had said yes, I would have been really uncomfortable because I wouldn't be my credible, comfortable, consistent self. Do you see? What I'm saying is, if it's something that's going to put you in trouble for some reason, and it's not to do with you messing up, you didn't prepare, you didn't get your stuff done, draw a boundary. And you can say no, it's okay. So don't step into somebody else's chaos, is my point.
Oh, that's such great advice, man.
Fear comes
Very
from
true.
not actually knowing what the hell is going on a lot of the time. So if it's that kind of fear, boundary, I am the person for this. I can talk about that. In fact, I will talk about that. So for example, I could have gone on stage. It's too long ago. I can't remember the details of what happened. But I know that I said no to the ask is the point. I can go on and talk about my stuff. I can talk about my credibility, my piece, what is going on. Fear comes from either not being in control of a situation. You can control it when you define the context for it, right? So somebody wants you to do something, say something. You're not the mouthpiece. You're your own spokesperson. Really important. Fear can come from you actually not knowing what you're doing and talking about. That's on you. You get your credibility and you sort your stuff out. You prep properly. But the other fear, which I think is what you're talking about here, is the fear of, I haven't done this before. I am credible. I do know I'm talking. I have prepped. But I'm really uncomfortable. All right. A couple of things. For example, the short cut to physiologically feeling fine, meaning the internal chemistry being, oh, thank you for that, is something called a physiological sigh. We do it when we're crying. It's a self-soothing type thing. Animals, my dog does it when she's falling asleep. It's a thing that we can do in the moment, and it's, do it with me. Come on, everybody, do it with me. Inhale, and then a shorter, go on, and then, because what you're doing is,
you short-circuit the brain, don't you?
You're calming yourself down.
Yeah.
If you do it 3 times, even better. So 1 to 3 times. I mean, this is an exaggerated move. You can do it in incognito. You're walking into the situation. Shortcut. So have these things. Have a belly full of good food, slow burn. I'm not kidding. It actually really, I have a video about this, by the way.
Oh, okay.
But it's it's practical tips to change your internal chemistry and physiology so that you are calm. MDR, right? The moving your eyes, EMDR.
EMDR, yeah, electronic something.
It's
no,
eye
movement, something.
rapid,
yeah.
eye movement. So,
whatever.
So the gun.
Yeah,
and it's the idea of moving your eyes side to side for 30 seconds, for example. But you can do it with your eyes closed. Nobody needs to see. Yeah? So you've just had some shitty news. You need to come. Do it. And then again, it's bringing that body back into itself and being comfortable on the inside, which will leak out. Yeah? Because remember, what people take away is a sense of you. They don't take away every single word. They just think, Nima and Khaled are brilliant.
I hope so.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not going, oh yeah, 3-minute 3, they said this, yeah? So all these things help you, and that fear piece becomes not an amplified, I feel stressed on the inside, and I don't know what, and the light's bright, and it's like, it becomes a break it down to build it up. So, the thing that's really concerning me is stepping under the spotlight, that spot on the stage. The thing that's really concerning me is that people will think I'm boring. The thing that's really concerning me is that I won't get the promotion because the boss will think I can't do this work. Break it down. When you know what your fear factor is, the most dominant thing, you address it. Don't be bloody boring. It's really simple not to be boring, by the way. You know, make it relevant, make it interesting, talk about the other person, all this stuff, you know, like. But it's difficult when you don't know how, and it's difficult to put in practice, because even if you know the answer, the minute you open your mouth, that doesn't come out.
Yeah.
It's the, I know this, I am that, I'm great, choose me.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, but like, actually,
100%.
why? So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that really, it's not like, oh, you know, a moment in time, bing.
No, of course.
It doesn't happen like that. But it really happens when you look back. Like you can look back to your first podcast and you can immediately see, wow, that happened. And I survived it, and look at me now and like, oh my God, I want to erase all those, but don't.
Yeah.
I know somewhere in the world, there is a video of me speaking really fast because I'm trying to remember everything in the world, blah, 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 you know, too fast. So I'm not my current credible, comfortable self.
On the communication piece, because you touched on I think the physiological aspect is very important, because I think we disconnect that everything is linked, and you know there's that you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's like what was it, 70%, 60% body language, 30% what you say, and 10% like the actual language, the words that you're saying. That's kind of how people communicate, and that's how people relate to each other. But for me, I was like, and then I've heard things like, you know, Tony Robbins has a famous thing, he jumps on like a trampoline. Someone told me motion creates emotion. So like if I'm nervous or whatever, so the psychological side that you talked about could be a calming one. But if you want to like get amped up, you know, some jumping jacks or whatever, just to like get you in the zone. And I've tested this out myself, and I've actually felt the difference. And I had a similar experience when I first started like speaking. I just want to get it out. It's that nervous energy. You can hear that quiver in your voice. And then someone,
it's your heart.
Yeah. It's going like 1,000 miles an hour. And I have the whoop too. So when I was giving that speech, I went and looked at the beginning. You see it go like that, and then it like shoots down as you know as I get into the talk. But you need, I think, when it comes to training someone on how to be a better communicator, from what I'm seeing, it seems that everything is very there's not enough emphasis on the physiological compared to that, like how to say this or deliver this message. I think this is such an important piece and if it's the biggest the way we communicate as people subconsciously is body language. It's almost like there's been an asymmetry in this communication space and how people are being trained.
So, again, to be brutally honest with you, there is a lot of myth and bullshit around body language, right?
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
No, you're not wrong, right? But I'm just giving you the context.
Sure.
First of all, let's start with your heart rate went up at the beginning. That's really important. It's good to have adrenaline, which is what it is. Shing! There's cortisol, adrenaline, pew!
Energy, yeah.
But shit scared. You know, there's a difference between, I've got energy and I'm going to channel it, and between, I am so scared. The energy's manifesting in me sweating and shaking.
Yeah.
So yesterday I was training somebody who was visibly shaking, quivering, the skin on the face, you know, really huge anxiety. That's not good manifestation of energy, you know? However, my point being that you can reframe what happens as something that helps you, propels you forward, or that blows you up. Being scared and excited is the same physiologically. So it's the same chemical makeup, but it's about how you frame it. My heartbeat's gone up. I've got that nervous energy about me. Great, I'm gonna do this really well. Yeah, because you see, the other thing is that the beginning and the end are what people most remember. The beginning of anything, a song, a concert, a talk, something, an interaction.
That's how our brains work.
A holiday, right? The bits in the middle actually are the least important, right? And what happens normally is that people really focus on the beginning and maybe all the bits in the middle, but actually there's no end. It's like there's no uplift or culmination or coming together. But that is so important. So it's about channeling energy so that it lasts and it's used effectively when it counts most. Your whoop thing saying, shit, it's okay. Use it. So I'm going to keep some of that for my end. Good one. Where did I want to go with this? Remind me. You were
the
talking
energy,
about the energy.
we're talking about the energy. You're saying it going up is actually a good thing
No,
because you can how to convert it, how to channel it.
But what you were saying about body language, that's
Yeah.
yeah, body language. So one of the biggest myths and misconceptions in the world of communication is around body language. There is somebody called Mehrabian. Don't know if that's familiar to you.
No, not familiar.
Okay. So he conducted an experiment in 1967 with a group of people where he said to the audience, I want you to rate the speaker by how believable this speaker is, right? And what he got the speakers to do is to talk about something, but to physically manifest in a different way. Example, I'm sorry, but with a smirk. I'm sorry. You know? So the way that there's a disconnect between what they're saying and how they are behaving or showing up, i.e. the body, what we call body language. What did the audience rate more important? How the words the person said or the way they showed up when they said it? And the audience said, the findings are that the way the person showed up was more important than the words they said. And the myth around body language making up 70% of how we perceive communication was born. Mehrabian himself is on the record. If you watch one of my videos, I've actually got the clip of him. He uses the word absurd. It is absurd how his finding has been misinterpreted and perpetuated. And if you do a Google search on body language or communication, oh my goodness, all these alleged experts who dive into that, and that's the most important thing. Again, you can have the most, look at me, I feel great, I'm on stage, open body, da-da-da. If you don't have the credibility, not interested. Do you see? So again, we're going back to the 3 C's. Without that, you have nothing to build with. There's no foundation. However, it is important. Body language is important, but not in the way of the Mehrabian thing. It's important because if you are the best credible person, but you are really small in how you show up, you're closed off, you're not able to, what I call, take ownership of your brilliance and expertise, people are just going to, again, default into the perception of that person doesn't have what it takes. That person doesn't have the confidence, etc. So it is all linked, but it's also bullshit. Because what happens is, look, this is why I am actually, so you've got people who are podcasters, you've got people who are public speakers, you've got people who are lots of different elements, keynotes, trainers. My message to the world is, it's useless. Not useless, but you don't get as much out of it. And sometimes actually, it's useless. It's useless. It's useless. It's a waste of your time doing all of this training, including media training, all the stuff that I do with people, if you don't have the foundation of how to communicate effectively with impact and influence. It's the difference between given the fish, learning to fish. Because every interaction that you have will change if you know how to communicate effectively, because you will know, this person needs this or wants this. I can help them with that, and it could be your teenager. It doesn't have to be somebody that you want as a client. It's anybody and everybody in your life, yeah. But I concentrate on the work piece because everybody in this world needs to earn. Most people need to earn, right? Their life's potential drips down the drain when they don't show up as their 3C self and actually able to show how they help the situation, the person, the client, the boss, the team member, right? So it is actually about enabling people to have their best, most fulfilled life, right? Like imagine if you never started. Imagine if you just got stuck on your first 10 podcasts and thought, I can't do this anymore. You know, this best life, which you're having fun with, right?
Yeah.
Would never happen.
True. Very
so
true.
Really important. How you show up, it is all based on how you communicate with yourself and how you communicate with the world, because that's how people interact with you, perceive you, pick up on what you do or don't do. So yeah, the body language piece is important, but not in this myth perpetuating way. Mehrabian, MEHRA, whatever, he is actually embarrassed by this. He's still alive, yeah? And he,
come on the show if you're around.
he won't come on the show because I actually had emails back and forth with him.
Oh, no
yeah,
way.
Yeah,
okay.
I contacted him and he's fed up with this whole thing. And I was like, oh, no, yeah.
Fair.
So,
Fair.
actually,
Sorry, bro.
but he's also in his 80s, I think, you know, like, but it's like, what a
Sure.
sad legacy. Like, he
Yeah,
dies and this is his legacy.
That's what you're going to be remembered by
God
for
damn
that.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
does that answer your question?
Yeah, it
What's your
does.
takeaway from this?
My biggest takeaway is it sounds like the body language piece has been over exaggerated. Not because everything you've talked about on, you know, the closedness, being open, whatever, I've tried and tested this in speeches myself, so I've felt the difference, so I know it is true. But at the same time, listening to the context that you gave was very useful, because in my mind, it never, like, the ratios seemed it almost seemed too much. I'm like, 60%? Is that? I'm like, okay, but what if I'm sitting like this, which body language wise is bad, but I'm saying like all the amazing things, like everyone says, like crossing your arms is like a
no.
Yeah, no, it's closed off, it's whatever. But
actually,
context is important.
But not only that, I mean, we've all listened to somebody who comes across as, you know, a nano judgment call as, oh, you know, they're a bit, are they really comfortable? But they're saying something really interesting. Do you stay listening?
Absolutely not.
You don't?
No.
Even if they're saying something interesting to you. If it's a doctor,
If
you're in
it's
doctor's
something
surgery
very
and you're in pain, your foot's killing you, your back's killing you, and somebody is like, they're showing up like this and they're not doing the whole, and they go, yeah, the lower back pain, and you've just done something to your back, would you listen?
I'd listen, but how much am I listening though at the same time?
Yeah. Okay.
You know, like
so you
you're
notice
saying,
it.
Yeah, I notice, but like, is it hitting me? Am I being like, that? Maybe
so
not.
the charisma side is okay.
Yeah.
So the head curator for TED, not TEDx, was asked this question: what's more important, what's being said, or the way it's being said? Because that's really what we're talking about, yeah.
That's what it drills down to, for sure.
And the answer was, if somebody is saying something really interesting, and I think it's important to know, but they're saying it in a non-interesting way, I will bother to listen. This is the head of TED. Shall I say that again? TED! And he decides who gets to go on, you know, stage and what videos are.
Is he the one, I'm not sure if it's him, the one who's done he's the famous guy who's done all the interviews, or is he the guy that selects the guests?
No, he's the guy who actually decides who goes on.
Okay, yeah.
And versus somebody who has the gravitas, which is what we're talking about,
Sure, yeah.
And charisma they come across, the way they're saying something is interesting, but they're actually talking about nothing interesting. It's rubbish. He would be very annoyed that he'd wasted his time. You see, that's the thing. And it really boils down to the credibility piece, the first C. So the message there is, the big message is, hey, get all your C's sorted out and have the
I think if you listen to this podcast, make sure those three are the takeaway. All right, for sure.
But it's about how do you do it.
Exactly.
But if you're saying nothing of importance, relevance, interest, maybe people get a great feel for you, but so what? Like, what are you the go-to person for? Yeah. So in my book, if people have an important truth they want to share or important information that they want people to know, and it can genuinely help, what a loss for you and your life's potential if you can't do it in the way that has the gravitas and the grounded credibility and I am energy, because it opens doors for you, right? You do live your best life. You do have those amazing partnerships, opportunities, things, whatever experiences that come about. But how sad for people who've got all the credibility and, it just stays stuck in them, right? Personally, I've had people who have said, oh yeah, I want to be on stage. I want to do this thing that you're doing, this kind of thing. And I'm thinking, great, you're very well dressed. You are, you've got that sense of self and what we call confidence, i.e. they feel, I can stand on stage, I can do this, I want to do this. But they've got nothing to contribute. I mean, I am thinking of a specific person here. It's like, actually, okay, good for you. Go and do it somewhere else because I'm not touching with the barge pole. Because,
Fair.
it's like, it's a performance. Now, on this point, performance. You said that your first speech, up and very fast. A lot of that comes from, yes, it's a first time, but also from recall. I have a certain sequence and flow that I have embedded in my mind.
Yeah.
Oh my God, if I deviate or forget, I'm screwed. I cannot finish it. What do I do? And so you are in recall mode, which means that you are not present in the moment. The most valuable thing that you can channel is connection. And that's really what storytelling is trying to be all about. Hey, I'm here. Spend the next few minutes listening to me. I have something to say, and it helps you in this way. Let me tell you what I mean. Let me give you an example. That is the magic. The magic is in creating connection. The connection won't happen if you cannot get people interested. And the interest can come from how you're saying it. I've just said nothing, by the way. A lot of words. But the way I'm saying it, it pulls you in.
I'm in. I'm hooked.
Oh, what's she going to say? Oh, have them all hot chocolate, yeah. Snuggle. So it is about the bringing together, but the bringing together cannot happen without fundamental building pieces, the 3 C's. And I'm saying this because what you said at the beginning of this bit, which is people can train you to be a public speaker. And the feedback is, don't say this, say that. Don't stand this way, stand that way. My issue with that is it can be such surface level subjective stuff. The person interacting with you has decided, this is real by the way, that you need to stand equally on both legs. I'm not kidding. Somebody followed me off stage once and said, how do I do what you did? And this person had had trainers and people and had disclosed to me that, the last one had said, don't lean on one leg. That was the feedback. And they felt, I'm not being myself, I'm not me on stage. I'm being made fit into somebody else's mold. My way is very different. It's about you showing up as you. I am. This is. And when you show up as you, everything happens.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I have to say it that way.
So funny you mentioned the leg lean feedback, because I literally got that maybe 2 months ago, because I was asking someone, one of my previous guests. I've noticed, when I'm speaking and I'm giving a talk, I have this, and I think it's how I deal with the nervous energy, which is like a rocking, kind of like a rocking motion back and forth, but I know that can distract from the message I'm giving and so on. And he said, dude, if you just stop that from happening.
Yeah.
Just spread your leg, plant them. He's like, try to do it now. Try to lean. I'm like, oh, I can't. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Sometimes I think something so simple in this whole communication piece can have such a big impact. And I think each person might take something away from, let's say we're working together, where you're training me on all these different things, but maybe it wasn't the speed, but maybe it was the volume. Maybe it was that. Maybe that was the unlock that really opened things up.
So if you think about it, if you go back to B2B, define it, break it down to build it back up. In that interaction, you hadn't defined the source of that discomfort. So the rocking back and forth comes from something. Is it you're in recall mode and you're trying to remember your next thing? Is it, they're all staring at me? What is it? It doesn't mean that you instantly magically make it disappear.
Of course.
But when you name it and own it, you can start to break it down into smaller pieces and deal with it, as opposed to obliterate it and impose a solution that, is masking, overcoming, but not dealing with it. So I don't know what the source of your rockingness, because that's just a manifestation of something else going on.
I would assume, from my perspective, I would say it would be nervous energy. It's just how my
Nervous
body
energy.
is dealing with the nervous energy. So it's not coming. Now I sound fine, but now my body's still like trying to, like compensate for it. That's what I would think.
Trying to dissipate the nervous energy in its own way.
Exactly.
So I would invite you to use it, you see. And I would say, walk. Walk, because when you walk, it does a few things. You're actually owning the whole stage.
Exactly.
And I walk, not because I'm thinking of nervous energy, but because I walk. That's me. I am a physical creature. I walk, and I like to be inclusive. People on the left and people on the right. I'm not just stuck in one spot. So that's what I mean by I disagree. I'm glad that you found a mechanism, a way to deal with it in the moment. But where I would invite you to think differently is, this is restricting.
Yeah.
I'm now stuck.
Yeah.
And I'm not my full self, because your self is a physical creature who wants to move. Own it, as opposed to quash it and diminish it. Yeah.
And the point you talked about, first of all, it's such great advice. Thank you so much. That's actually very, very helpful to me. On the last event that I emceed, I had done some research, so I was walking around still, still practicing, still getting better, but it did feel better. On the point you made about recall, so the guest I had on the show told me, he's like, Khaled, never memorize the script, and this is kind of what we've talked about today. But you've also talked about which we're going to touch on in a little bit, the brilliant Communicator book, guys, that you guys have to check out. You said there's a hierarchy of it. There was, I think, education I can't remember what the second piece was, and then there was interest. And our goal when you're giving a talk, a presentation, whatever, is you want to leave the audience interested. Okay. What's the difference between me, I've educated the audience, and now the audience is interested?
Imagine that we were live, right now, me and you, live broadcast. And you had said a bit, you'd done the intro, and I start speaking. And 30 seconds into the first answer, everything goes, it dies. No more electricity, and that's it. I'm flying out. It's not going to happen for a few months. If it was live, people would take away that first few seconds of me. They'd have an impression, a perception, all these wonderful things. Correct?
Correct.
Imagine I'm interviewing a guest live. Of course, this has actually really happened many, many times, of course, on live TV, on stage. These are live interactions. You can't go back and edit it. The first thing, what do we remember? We remember the first thing that happens and the last thing. That's how we frame an interaction, an experience, a person. If you are starting with something that isn't relevant to that person, do they give a shit? Do they listen to you? No, right?
True.
Now, sometimes you deliberately want them to stop listening, and I'll explain what I mean by that. What is she talking about? Okay, in a minute. Your biggest success, I'm inviting people through my work, is to reframe success. Your success is when you are able to pique and get the interest of the stakeholder you want a yes from. And you do that with the first sentence out of your mouth. It does two things when it's done well. It tells the person you want a yes from, this is what I do, listen to the next sentence. But it also says to the people that you don't want to give you the call or book the demonstration or whatever, not to listen to you, because it's not relevant to them. It's a filter. Every message, instead of thinking of it as a funnel towards something, because we're taught all these things about funnel. You want to have as much people in the top, and then you want to drip down, and then you get some of the people at the bottom. Forget that. Forget this bullshit. Forget it. You want to start with a deliberate, intentional way of showing up, interacting, communicating, to filter for fit. You want to filter out the wrong people. You want to filter in the right people, fewer numbers, but the right people. And you want to keep them with you along the journey. I say influence, not influencer. An influencer wants as many followers, as many likes, as many ping, ping, ping. I feel good about myself, but doesn't do anything for my life. In fact, it makes my life miserable because I have to have that dopamine hit each time. You're like, oh, I didn't get 100,000 likes, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Versus I have influence where it counts. What is influence in my definition? It is the ability to affect or bring about behavior that is very specific. So you influence their next step. Example, at the end of this podcast, you would love people who want a podcast to get in touch.
Sure.
At the end of this podcast, I would love people who are credible and want to take ownership and become known for their credibility, which increases how much money they earn, which increases opportunity, all these great things, to get in touch, right? That's our outcome. So when we are talking to the wants, concerns, fears, the voice in the head of that person, we're more likely to get that person wanting to book. It doesn't matter if it's 10 people, one person, 100 people. It's the right fit. Would you agree?
Fair.
What we don't want is people getting in touch who are the wrong fit, who waste our time and their time. Right? So there you go. You start with the interest piece first. It's interesting to the relevant person. We are taught to get through life, to prove how clever we are, to be like, you got an A grade. Well done, Khalid. You got triple A.
Oh, thanks.
Yes. What does it do for you?
Nothing. Fuck off.
Right? So like, oh, well done. Yay. What you want to flip it. So the educate, what Khalid is talking about here, I've got a triangle. Can I tell them?
Yeah, please.
There's a triangle. It's called the hierarchy of the brilliant communicator. And in the triangle, we'll pull up the book. At the bottom it says inform, and in the middle is educate, and at the top is interest, right? Triangle, inform, educate, interest. I can't remember what page number on is there. And the idea here is that inform looks like this. Take this pill at 3 p.m. Bing. Will you do it? I'm giving you information. Put the TV on at 2 p.m. Take this pill at 3 p.m. I mean, it's information, right? Does it give you context?
No.
Does it tell you why it's important for you to take it?
No.
Will you do it?
No.
Because?
Because I don't know why I'm doing it.
Because maybe it's going to be bad for you. Maybe it's going to go against your principles. You don't know what information. The next layer, which is where experts get stuck, is the educate space. Because people launch into proving their own knowledge, cleverness, credibility, and telling people a whole bunch of stuff that's overwhelming, doesn't tell you why you should care, and actually I'm not interested, I'm not listening anyway. Even if I'm sitting in the audience, doesn't mean somebody's actually listening to you, yeah? Interest is about thinking, who is it that I want a yes from here? Whose interest do I want? Okay, it's this person. In your case, I don't know, it's a person who has got a small business, for example, who wants the world to know that they manufacture this or that they are experts at that, right? My audience base is an expert, an executive, a founder, an entrepreneur, somebody who, again, has credibility and wants to be known for it so that they attract opportunity instead of chasing it, right? Okay, so what's the thing that they are struggling with most, worrying about most, keeping them up at night most? What is it? That's what I start with. I pique the interest. If I don't start with the top of the triangle, which is the ultimate way to communicate, nothing else happens. They don't stay with you. That's one. Two, if you interest somebody but you've said none of your keywords, or the journalist has edited them all out, if you succeeded in interesting them, they go and look you up. You win.
That's very true.
Right? So that's interest people first. If you interest them, they stay with you. They want to know what you're going to say next. If they walk in on you halfway and they've missed who you are or what you're doing, they will look you up. If the interaction dies because their dog barks or the electricity goes, whatever, they will look you up. How many times have you looked somebody up because you think that was interesting?
Thousands.
Exactly. And even if you don't know their name, when you start like Googling, like, person who does this, looks like that, has this, whatever. So there you go. Interest is the ultimate thing. I have a little phrase. I've written lovely poems to help people. And it goes, interest not in form is my communicating norm.
Okay.
From now on.
Okay.
Tune into them, they tune into you. When you know the worries and concerns and words that your stakeholder uses, so you're tuning in, you're listening, and you use them in the way you communicate and start, whether it's written, spoken, on video, it doesn't matter. They will tune into you because that is what resonates. Oh, that's my pain. That's what I've just been talking about. That you want to become the voice in their head. Yeah.
Yeah. The interest, the triangle is such a great way to explain the interest aspect that you're talking about, because until you explain it to me in that way, I'm like, if I'm giving a speech, I'd be like, traditionally, I think, my goal here is to, I want to connect to you, obviously, but I want to educate you, I want to inform you about all these things, all that stuff. But you're so right. If I don't speak about what you're interested in as a start, I've already lost you. I will even have the opposite. So by the time I get to the real juice, which is the education and the informative stuff that's going to help you in this thing you're interested in, you're not going to give a fuck anymore.
But that's the juice for you, not for them. Remember, people want the shortcut to pain-free living.
Okay, on this point, shortcut, and you just mentioned context. This is I think, Nima, this is probably Khalid's biggest struggle, and it's literally happening with you in real time. For me, context is very important, but where I struggle is editing. Editing, so I can still give you that context, but in a much more cohesive, clean way. I've noticed when I reflect on my recordings, sometimes I can go all around the world or bringing a lot more information or insights into it before I even get you the question, but maybe that's making the question not land as hard or come across as much. And that's literally just happened right now.
Could you say that again?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So this is, and I think, so what advice do you have someone like me? How do I adjust this context piece and deliver it in a much cleaner way?
First of all, the type of interaction we're having here allows you to do that, by the way. Meaning, it's not like, we've got 30 seconds and that's it. So you'd have to go straight in for the jugular and the most important nugget, right? Having said that, what you don't want to do is drag things out, which is really kind of like what you're saying. You're saying, I kind of go round the houses a bit and then I get to my point, yeah? It's okay if you're keeping people with you. Does that make sense? So if you're literally verbalizing what somebody else is thinking, that's great because they're thinking, that's exactly what I'm thinking, and thank you for saying it like that. But if you're kind of going off into different directions and it's getting lost, that's where you're in trouble, because it's how do I come back to the point?
Yeah.
How do I keep this focused and concise and beneficial for the person who's listening? This is why my work is about changing the way you think and organize information in your head, then write, then speak, right? That's the foundation. It's the how do I decide which bits to choose and use first, which bits to ditch. And you've got to do it in nano time because it's real time, right? So I have, again, very simple. We humans like frameworks because it's a shortcut. I don't have to filter and figure out. I just want to, okay, how do I do it? Simple. It is. Okay, if I was you and I could slow down time or pause it in your brain, this is what I would say to your brain. Okay, Khalid. Who is your stakeholder? Your stakeholder isn't me. Your stakeholder is the people who are your listeners and followers and want more from you, yeah? But it's not all of them as well. Let's be really brutal. It's the people who you want to work with. So you've got two things going on. You're benefiting many people who just tune in and they love it. But actually, your best life happens when you get to work alongside brilliant people and help them showcase that through a podcast. Yeah. My best life happens when I work with brilliant people who want the fundamentals of how to communicate with impact and influence that they can use in any interaction, a podcast, interview, keynote, doesn't matter, yeah? So when we think that, we think, what's relevant to them? And you start with that point, yeah? So imagine somebody in your audience that's one of your clients who you think they would love to ask Nima this. They would love to know this from Nima. That's what you start with, right? Because you are the conduit, the link between me now here with us speaking and what they want. That's your ideal situation. Then you think, okay, so that's what they're worried about, what keeps them up at night, because that's what they tell you when you've got your meetings. Oh, I can't do this. How do I do that?
Yeah.
Then you think in a simple structure of what, so what, now what? What is it I want to talk about or set the scene for? What's the point here? From the perspective of my ideal stakeholder. This is important because, so literally say that sentence to yourself, but you can say it in any way. You know, what you get from this is, the reason this is important is because, and the now what is, what can you do about it? Here's how this helps. This is what can be done. Yeah? And you can use that framework for anything. What, so what, now what? You could be standing on stage and you can say, audience of 100, I'm interested in the CFO in the audience. What are they interested in? A real example, somebody I worked with, the realization was, they look at regulation as a cost center, but I want to tell them to reframe it. Regulation and compliance with regulation can be an income and profit center if they do certain things in a certain way that I know because I'm the expert in the legal regulatory framework. So it's starting, and this is what I suggested to my client, you start with the jugular. You say, how many of you see regulation as a cost and a problem? All the hands go up of the right people. How many of you think how many of you, did you know that you can make money from, the easiest money from complying with this regulation? Really? How do I do that? So it's changing that. This is a problem to, this is a benefit, right? So you're getting the interest of the right person, and then you say, this is important because a huge misconception is, a huge problem people face is, and this is how I help. Do you see?
That's actually really, really helpful, because listening to the way you described it in terms of a framework and a system, when you put it in that way, in my head, I was like, if I started implementing that thinking
Default
in real
mode.
time,
Mm-hmm.
it would probably help me bring my point across in a much more, cohesive way. So that's actually really, really great feedback, because again, I like setting the stage. So that's why I like bringing as much context as possible. So, it's the build for the question to, punch and land. But sometimes, like you just said, that can also be misleading, could, take away from what I'm saying. But what you started off when you answered that question, which I thought was very interesting, was the context. We're doing a podcast right now. And I thought this or my, I don't know what I would call this, a challenge, the challenge I have is an issue, would be problematic in every different context. But until you said that this is a podcast, I'm like, I guess here maybe I have the more freedom to express all these things compared to if I'm on stage or if I'm being interviewed, because...
Or you're pitching.
Or pitching, because I've interviewed hundreds of people. You've interviewed over 10,000, which I want to dive into in a second. Now, what I recently started getting invited to be a guest on podcasts now, which is crazy to be the guest on the other side. And when I was a guest, I realized, and I'm reflecting on our conversation today, just as there's a way to be a good host, there's a way to be a good guest. And I realized I have all my reps in the gym as the host, so this is very comfortable for me. But when I'm the guest now, I'm like, I really want to work on coming across, taking everything that we talked about into account. So on the interviewee relationship, and I think if we really think about it, life is just one big interview. Anyone you talk to, you're basically in an interview anyway. What have you learned over your, I know I watched a video you made about 40 lessons of everything you learned from 10,000 interviews, but I wanted to kind of drill that down to more about what have you learned about communicating with people, interviewing so many different people, over 10,000 across your career?
What I will say to you about context first, because you brought that up, is when I train people, when I do media training, for example, and media training is a very misleading idea because it needs to be the fundamentals of communication training and it's applicable to everyone, right? I ask a very simple open-ended question. What do you do? Because what I'm looking for is how you think. What you say tells me how you think. This is really important. My job, my success, is changing how you think, because you've got the credibility pieces, and reorganizing information in a way that you realize, aha, I need to do it this way, and it's really easy when I think about the framework like this, right? So like a checkbox in your head. Stakeholder, tick, what they're interested, tick, what, so what, now what, tick. Culminate it in the what do we do now, which is often missing. And you might do this as a guest, by the way, because being a guest, for you have a business. Being a guest, me, being a guest now, part of it is the sharing information, benefiting people, etc. But part of it is saying to the right people, hey, get in touch. If you want this for yourself, get in touch. And what most people do is they forget that bit. It's not at the forefront in their default mode, initial being a guest, or even initial putting information out. It becomes about the educate, inform, share, but not finalizing, closing the loop with the, by the way, this is really important for you because get in touch if you want this, that, the other, right? Which is true, which is why you do what you do. You love it, you know the benefit of it. Why I do what I do, yeah? So being a guest is different. Being concise and helpful with how you communicate and share the knowledge that you have is the key to your kingdom. Because they want to think, oh, Khalid said that, he's right, I want to get in touch with him. Nima said this, she's right, I want to get in touch with her. Yeah, that's the right person. The biggest mistake that people have made, and I'm talking about billion-dollar CEOs, heads of state, everything, is they start with their perspective. They start with what's important to them. And this just happened yesterday with the group I was training. They all started with what they did, what their company wants out of the, I am building my success, you know, the van. So nobody cares. You need to start with what's on the mind of your stakeholder. Example, my ideal stakeholder. Clever, brilliant, a lot to share. Damn it, I lost out to somebody else with less credibility than me. How come they got the gig, they got chosen, they get the clients? My bet is because of how they're communicating what they know and do. They're not piquing the interest first, and they don't have that gravitas and charisma and owning their space when they're doing it. When they're on a podcast, they're not thinking through, how can I get this across in an interesting, relevant, catchy way? By the way, having a catchphrase is great. So people say, becoming a spokesperson is like an elite leadership thing. You know, in organizations, they have these layers of, oh, you are the spokesperson for this thing. Hurrah! Become your own spokesperson. Step into that role of CEO of Credible You. Part of that is becoming your own spokesperson. What do I mean? When somebody asks you a question, it's a gift of space and time. It's a gift. You take ownership of that space and time and you give it the context you want. And I don't mean be evasive and not helpful and only be self-serving. That's not what I mean. It means that instead of waiting for somebody else to define the context and the framework, you do it. I'll give you an example. You could say, so Nima, I don't know, go on, ask me a question. Any question.
What did you eat for breakfast?
Not that kind of question. Okay, I mean, whatever. Go on then.
Yeah. What are you for breakfast today?
What did I eat for breakfast? You know what? While I was thinking about breakfast, I was thinking, what's the most important thing I want to get across on my interview today with Khalid? And it is communication is the currency of your success. It's the element that you build everything with. You can be the cleverest, most brilliant brain. If you can't get it across in the right way, nobody knows, you're the world's best kept secret, you will never fulfill your life's potential. Because the way you communicate and how you show up is how people interact with you, perceive you. And then I went and bought a sushi. But do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about, I gave it my framework and my context.
Yeah.
I didn't become what I call an answer person. An answer person is somebody who follows the lead of the other person. You ask me about breakfast, I answer you. I went down, didn't want what was on offer, went and bought some sushi for breakfast. It was delicious. Okay, thanks. Right, it ends there.
Yeah.
A spokesperson, your own spokesperson, it's a gift. Thank you for that gift of space and time. And you could have asked me anything. For example, why do you do what you do? Yeah. Why did you stop being on TV? Whatever. And I will tell you, what I've taken away from 30 years of on stage, on TV, working privately with people is that nobody knows how to communicate effectively because the schooling system has poisoned our brains to thinking in a certain way. But it's really important that we do this because it's the communication. Communication is the currency of your success.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm doing there?
Yeah.
I am bringing it back to my context that is really important to share because I believe this, right? This is really important. And it's the missing piece in everybody's life. I actually don't know anybody who does the work I do the way I do it. I don't know anyone. That's why I wrote the book. The book is my bringing together of my thinking, creating that framework around it, because each letter in the word brilliant actually stands for a transition from one point to another. B is for begin and believe. If you don't believe in your own credibility and worth and you have something important to say and share, nobody's going to believe it and believe in you. So you're dead in the water. B is for begin as well. If you don't begin to take ownership of your credibility, become the CEO of Credible You, you're not going anywhere. You're just staying stuck. And then so we go on. You know, one of the L's is for listen. So you tune into the voice in the mind of your client, the words they use, the worries they have, you know? And so it goes. I is for interest. It's the most important thing.
How was I'm so happy you brought up the book because I wanted to jump into it because it's a lot, the whole conversation today has been about communication, yes, but it's been very focused on the speaking element. So you've taken your 30 years of experience and now you're a speaker, a mentor and a public speaking coach and so on. But now
I'm not a public speaking coach.
Sorry.
I am as part of this.
Yeah.
So what I am actually, which is odd because nobody else really does this, is I'm the person who changes the way you think, write and speak so you can communicate with clarity and drive the results that you want. Yeah?
Yeah. So on that point, when you were writing this book, I'm curious, how was it transitioning your mindset from I want to speaking this to writing it, because writing does come with a different process, the way you think about structure, all that kind of stuff. But I've also heard, I asked someone once, I'm like, me Khalid personally, I'm a better speaker than I'm a writer. I think I can deliver my point much better through words than through a book. But he told me, he's like, okay, practice writing like you speak. And I'm like, that was very interesting. And when I started doing that just on, for example, LinkedIn, for example, I could tell, not only did my content feel more like me, but I could see the response be like, Khalid, oh man, that happened to me. Oh my God, this thing. So just walk us through transitioning into this, writing this whole book, and what can people expect to get from this book?
Right. So you've actually hit upon a really important thing. What I would hope people take away from this is that this isn't about the speaking piece. The speaking piece is the culmination and result of what comes before, which is, how do I structure what I want to get across? So communication for me isn't about the spoken word. That's just one outlet for it. What is communication? Most people think communication equals me speaking something, right? I invite you to redefine that. Communication only happens when... Okay, so imagine you say something and you've put it out there. Is that communication? No. It's not a trick question. I won't trick you. I'll just say, yeah, it's not what you say. Communication, when you speak something, it's not communication. When somebody hears you and what you've said, has communication happened? No.
Okay.
When somebody takes on what you want to get across, and there is a change that happens, that is the only time communication happens. It's when an aha happens in somebody's brain. And the result of it is, oh, I must look for that product, turmeric, for example. Random. Do you know what it could be? Anything. Do you know, like, just, yeah. It's like, oh, I must buy some turmeric. That's when you've said, this is anti-inflammatory, it's really important for you, blah, right? That's communication. It's not that you've said it or written it in an article. No, communication is only successful, i.e. it only happens when there is the aha and the change. The change could be in thinking, ideally in behaving. Something changes. They've done these MRI studies where they've taken two brains and they're looking at what happens in the brain when there's communication. When there is what we call boringly effective communication, which means that it's landing, the person's getting it, and there's buy-in, the brains synchronize. It's like a parallel dance that happens. The same areas start lighting up with a slight delay. So the person sharing, I will not say communicating, because I don't know if they're communicating effectively just by sharing. It's getting into the other person's head, and they're processing it, and a bing happens in their head, and they go, ah, and then there's this parallel dance where they synchronize. That's the only time communication actually happens. That's it. So this book simplifies it brings together everything I know. Yeah. But in a really, I'd love people to comment and buy it and read it. Buy it and read it.
Buy it and
buy it and read it. But more importantly, tell me what you take away. That's the key. That's the key. Yeah. What I hope and want is for them to have things that they start doing and applying that are appropriate for where they're at now. One of the things I extol when I work with people is meet yourself where you're at, work with what you've got. Where you're at, let's say with your speaking thing, is different to where I'm at with it. It's different to where somebody else is at. So your needs are, for example, how do I have my own presence on stage where I'm not having to think about what I'm doing, but I just am. I'm free, liberated. I'm Khalid, and I own this space, and I'm really comfortable in it, right? Whereas somebody else might be at a much earlier stage thinking, I just want to write a LinkedIn post. I want to share what I know. So I'm all about how do you share what you know and do with the world in a way that is comfortable for you right now, but also makes you want to do the next thing. So maybe you're comfortable writing it, and then you want to speak it, and then you want to be on video. Maybe you want to be on a podcast. Maybe you want to host a podcast. Do you see? But it's all coming from the same core of, I am the CEO of Credible Me, and I want to share it. Yeah. The book. Can I actually share a couple of things?
Please, yeah.
I'm going to pick it up.
Yeah,
I'm going to pick up the book.
Please.
Bing. What I've done is, you haven't seen this yet.
No.
It's for him. So, dear Khalid. But it's the idea of each chapter ends with, so it starts with the breaking down of what the brilliant framework is. Each letter stands for something. So believe, reflect, inspire, listen, level up, investigate. Aha is an important word. I have my keywords that I use, and it's all here. So that's the beginning of it. It tells you where you're at. And then at the end of each chapter, let me get to an end of a chapter. Here we go. For example, I have a summary and then I have think, write, speak. So I have summed up the things to do with that chapter in 3 actionable steps. 3 things you can start doing. Does it mean that every person is going to go to the same 3 things and action them? No. It depends on where you're at in that point in time, what you're working on, what you want to get better at, what you want to do next for yourself, because it all feeds into your next success. Yeah. I found I really, even if you never publish a book, writing is such a powerful tool because it's about clarifying your thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And this is where, on the point I was touching on earlier, Nima, and this I experience this not only like verbally, but also when I'm writing content, is that editing. So I'm sure going through this book, the editing has to be ruthless, like every
kicking
word.
Out things.
Yeah. Every word must have value, otherwise it shouldn't be there. So
yes and no. What I mean is, I write in really short sentences usually.
Okay.
I write in and it was a struggle because I needed to write in longer sentences for the book to become a book, to be readable.
Yeah, fair.
So that was actually like, this is a problem. Mm-hmm. So I have had to, there are short sentences, tune into them, they tune into you. Bush, bash, done, job done. It's full of that, 3 C's. I like to condense because that's the culmination.
Yeah.
But if I just put that in there with no context of what the hell does this mean? Why is this important? How does it work? Nobody gets it.
Yeah.
So it's over to you. Sorry.
Yeah. No, on that point, just I guess going through that process of, because like you said, writing is very different to speaking, because you really have to I think when you write, you get the true reflection of what you think.
Yes and no.
You don't think so?
No, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
May I interject?
Yeah, please.
So there are 2 different types of, at least 2 different, 2 different types of writing, okay? Sure. One is you want to get what the voice in your head type writing, like the flow. I just want to, like, dear diary, life is shit. This happened. But the secret thing I want to say to this person is, and that's blah, 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 yeah, that.
Yeah.
And then there's the, this is the academic me, the credible me, yeah. And we kick into the default mode of proving what you know, referencing what you know, proving that it is real, because this other person said it, which is really funny for me, but, because actually you have a lot to contribute. This is why my whole thing is like, be the CEO of Credible You. You have something to contribute. Stop hiding behind or diminishing, taking away from your power by not saying it and sharing it in any way, any medium, format, but also by hiding behind somebody else. Simon Sinek says this, so it must be real. By the way, his whole why, there is no scientific basis for this. I'm saying it out loud. There's a whole movement that started on the whole book and the video. But when you look at the cognitive science behind it, it does not exist. However, people like it because it's a coat hanger to hook things on. Ooh, this gives me context. I can now feel better about saying my thing, doing my thing. I have a reason to live, whatever. So it helps. And absolutely, that's good. That's good, right?
For sure.
But there is actually no basis for it. It just, what it does, it makes, people want to feel good about themselves, right? That's really what the bottom line is. When somebody is able to make somebody feel good about themselves, in any way actually, could be the colour you're wearing, yeah? Win. So Sinek has benefited immensely. Great. My job is to make people feel good about the fact that they do have some control over life. By the way, Khaled, a really important thing that we haven't touched upon is, why am I doing all the work I'm doing? It's because I've seen so much potential just be wasted. Haram for me, really awful thing. Life potential, brilliant brains. They're stuck, they're left behind, they're not chosen. And it's just because they haven't got this, how do I share what I know and do in a way that is going to get that yes, is going to make that opportunity come to me. I've been fortunate in my life. I've never applied for a job. I've worked with governments, multinationals, everything by invitation, because I am the top of mind person for specific things, for my niche, with the right decision makers. And I said to myself, how come the corporate world gets to work with me, or the certain governments or whatever? I want people. They are the most important thing, because it is a huge loss to their life. I'm not interested in enabling a corporation to be more profitable. Actually, that's not my interest. I'm interested in enabling people to be safe enough to say no to a bad situation, to be able to showcase their brilliance so that they are chosen for the right opportunity. And in today's political atmosphere, where horror is happening to the Palestinians, to other people across the world, to just corporates behaving in a certain way, governments behaving in a certain way, and people who care about it being stuck. If you are dependent on the corporate world to pay your fee or your wage, the rent for your life, and that job either ends or you decide you cannot take it anymore because of the hypocrisy, what do you do? If you're not known for your brilliance, you're screwed, because you start from zero. And I will share that this is a mistake I made, meaning broadcasted to 200 million people. I'm laughing, like, if only I'd done that. I never created a medium, a way for me to communicate and connect with people who want more from me. Because I was really busy. Flying around, doing this, popping up here, doing that, by invitation. Hurrah for me. But the people I love working with most are people. Especially people who are brave enough to invent their success. You're an expert in something. You've done this. That's why I'm here. You have been brave enough to invent your success. You've created your own corner in the information world and how you show up, how you serve people, right? You've created your best life as a result. That interests me. People who want that for themselves, or who are doing it and want to make it better for themselves. They want to shortcut to the next level of success. And so imagine I had started, let's say, an email list when I was 200 million. Do you know what I mean? Woohoo! And then I said, by the way, I've just written a book and here you go. Versus, hello people, hello. You might not know who I am, but actually I've got something that helps you.
Yeah.
I'm starting from a different place where I have to either convert people, I can trust her, or, she's changed her role. I know her from the BBC, but now she's, that was a huge mistake I made, and this is part of my mission now. So it's not just the communication of how do you show up and say what you do and share it with the world. It's also how do I build my own ecosystem out of creating the community of the right people for me, so that when I pivot, change something in my life, want to share something different I'm doing, I already have my community there ready.
Yeah.
This is all part of what goes into this book. It's the idea of creating that basis for yourself. But you might not be there yet. You might be in a different, but it's planting that seed of, I have power. We have power. The power to say no, but it's bloody scary if you don't have the ability to fund your life.
Yeah.
The power to change certain things about your life. The power to a lot. But if you don't have ownership of your credibility and a community of people who want more from you, that power, you have a, huge.
I'm so happy you just said all that. I'm so happy you just said all that, because everything you just talked about is so pertinent to what we hear about today, which is, and thank you for sharing the story of the mistake you made by not, doing that, because I think that's very helpful. Now, the buzzword of 2025, Nima, as you know, you've seen it on LinkedIn 20 billion times, personal branding.
Oh, forget that.
Yeah, but at the same,
yes and no, yeah.
Everything we kind of talked about today is that. So if you're, and I think this is, so when bringing it back to
forget the fluff.
Yeah.
I don't mean forget personal branding.
Yeah. So bringing it back to what we were talking about in the sense of what's interesting to people, piquing their interest. I think when it comes to this whole communication piece, everything we've talked about today, because I wanted to drill it down into this. When it comes to now personal branding in 2025, the opportunities that can come, whatever, I think there's still a disconnect. I think, okay, now everyone really wants personal branding, right? But underlying that is everything we've talked about today, which is the communication, because how you communicate is what you're going to be is going to impact your personal branding.
It's how you show up.
Exactly. But not only that you mentioned earlier, which I think is also a very important point, and probably the one that's going to get people over the line more. If I can communicate better, I can make more money.
Yeah.
Finish.
Tell
Full
us.
stop. Because all these soft skills, a lot of the times, the reason.
High impact communication tactics to attract more clients.
There you go.
Client is your boss.
Yeah.
You're the company. So this redefining client is whoever gives you money for
Yeah.
what you know and do.
Yeah.
And amplify your authority. More authority means more choice. Sorry, over to you again.
No, of course. Of course. The question I have is, I think more people would be very interested in communication and like becoming a better communicator if we could show them the tangible dollar value of something that has come up, or because of my brand, I have gotten this like opportunity. And I think this and everything we've discussed today, whether you're talking to an individual that wants to work with you, whether you're talking to a business, in their head, they're going to have that question mark, like, yeah, what's that for? And if that's not, I think because it's not that clear yet, not necessarily from you, but in general. I think that's where that gap that we still need to bridge is.
Warren Buffett is on record as saying people who are better communicators increase their net worth by 40%, which is a hell of a lot of money if you think about the cumulative amount that you earn over a lifetime. And this man should know.
Yeah.
He has described his communication certificate as his most valuable thing ever.
From Carnegie Mellon, I believe you got it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it just so happens that was the only thing on offer then. So, so it's not so much about Carnegie as the communication, the sea of communication. It's the only thing he has hanging on his wall because it has been the gateway to everything. When you know that, do we need to have the rest of the conversation? That's one.
Yeah.
Two, the way you show up is how people see you, perceive you. The way you communicate, and by that I mean share what you do. If it's written, it could be an image you create, and it doesn't matter what the medium is. It could be what you say. The what you say piece is interesting because it brings together everything. It's the how you are, what you say, how you speak it. Tone, intonation, your body, what you do. Right, it's everything. Okay, fine. So it's the ultimate. But it's actually not the only way you communicate. People already know that they benefit when they show up as their best self, when somebody chooses them. So the question really is not me proving how much money you can make from becoming a better, in brackets, communicator or sharer of what you know and do. You know that you can earn more. Full stop. That's it. Plus, you know that you save more time on miscommunication, on farting around trying to fix something that went wrong. Because I'll give you an example. NASA blew up $328 million, blown up $328 million because of a simple miscommunication mistake. One team was using inches, the other team was using centimeters. We're talking about a hell of a lot of money and a hell of a lot of time. But this happens every day in every team, in every business. It is a huge loss center. So if you want to stem the loss, and you could be working on your own or with a team, doesn't matter. You bloody get in touch. Yeah, it's really that simple. But it is a huge, huge amplifier of wealth, money wealth, because you earn more, you get the promotion. Somebody I work with, she just told me she's on her next promotion already. Like she's just go leapfrog. Another person who worked with me was chosen as one of 30 people from across the world to be a Forbes Impact Fellow because of changing the way they think and communicate. So they were chosen because they knew how to, right? These are huge life-changing because that network now, that person, is on a different level. It's the Forbes Impact. 30 people from across the world. Shall I say it again? Do you know how many people are competing to get on? So it's about a monetary value, but it's about so much more. It's about however you define your best life. And ultimately, for me, it's actually about dignity and choice. Meaning, imagine you earn $100,000 a month at a corporate. It's shit. Their values are against yours. You want to be true to yourself. and you're happy earning 10. And you can, if you've got the right people interested and you know how to get their interest and their payment. But you live in alignment with your dignity and values, yeah. So yeah, it is about, for me, dignity and choice at the core. Flipping the narrative, you are in control of a hell of a lot, but you need to invest in self. I've invested in self, you've invested in self. It's a continuous journey for us because we're a certain type of person. If people don't want to take control of their shit, they're the wrong people for both of us.
100%. I love that you ended it with that. So when I was a while ago, but if you asked me the question a year ago, Khaled, who's your audience? I would have told you, oh, I think it's this and that. I can tell you demographics. I can, and even earlier when you asked me the question, I explained it in demographics terms. But if you ask me now, like the person, I attended a workshop and this guy, his name is Chris Doe, I don't know if you're familiar, I had him on the show as well. He said, Khaled, if you want to find out who your audience is, think about who do you hate. And when you start listing the people you hate, you start realizing, oh, everyone that I like or my audience is the opposite of this person. You know what I'm saying? So it's just interesting how small shifts sometime and it kind of encompasses everything we've talked about today about the importance of, number one, knowing who your audience is, being interesting. The benefit, I think we've clearly outlined today what the benefits of communication are in whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in business, whether it's in connections. And you famously said, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Mm-hmm. And what I've found in my career so far over the last 5 years of doing this is one of the misconceptions people have about podcasting. They think like, oh man, you need to have like hundreds and thousands of views and only then you're a good podcaster and whatever. And I'm like I'm living proof that, guys, I just started this. I've been speaking, I just spoke to a lot of people, got a lot better. And because of that, now I have the business. Now I have the opportunity to sit down with amazing people like you and many, many others that I would have never dreamed of. And those people are the reason I've gotten to where I am. And that's why I can get access now to almost anyone I'm, looking for. So I hope people walk away. I want people to hopefully walk away from this conversation today, finally taking communication seriously. And even if you're a good communicator, for example, I was doing this show now, I'm doing it 5 years. In Jan, I took a public speaking course online with a guy called Vin Yang. He's outstanding. I love his content. Because I knew, I'm like, yeah, okay, I know I have a talent in this. I know I'm good at it. I've got the reps in the gym, but I can be better at this. And I hope that people who are watching the content have seen it come together over the last couple of months. Nima, to round off our conversation today, I just have 2 more questions for you. The questions I ask all my guests.
Can I say my interaction though? Just that
point. Oh,
point,
please, yeah, please.
So you've hit the nail on the head. It's about who do you want to surround yourself with? Who do you want to be in touch with? For me, the most important thing is people who are brave. So it doesn't mean that you're not scared, but it's being brave enough to step into discomfort. Yeah. Being brave enough to say, actually, I don't want this. I want this for myself, not that. It's being brave enough to have that. So bravery is a really important thing. It doesn't mean not being scared. Being brave and scared at the same time is actually the recipe for success.
100%. Yeah. It's probably, you probably have elements of both all the time.
Always, yeah.
Right.
But the other thing is the idea of communication. Communication is the pathway to being respected, known for your credibility, your expertise, excellence, experience. But actually, if you look at the core of everything that I do, it's giving people choice and options and the ability to fulfill their potential in life instead of watching it dripping down the drain. Without the ability to share what you know and do in a way that interests people, you haven't got a chance in hell.
100. I could scream when it comes to that. I couldn't agree more. Nima, for my last 2 questions, first of all, looking back either personally or professionally, when I ask you the question, what are you most proud of for yourself? What would you say?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I think it's whatever. I would have to ask people around me what they got from me. That's my most important thing. It's about, I always ask people at the end of any interaction, what's your takeaway from this? And when the light bulb goes off, the aha moment, and they go, I realize how, and the thing that they've realized, That's what I'm proud of. And I don't even the word proud isn't part of my vocabulary because I'm not proud of myself. I am so happy to be able to make that change happen, that transformation. For me, it's about the shortcutting.
Yeah.
Instead of you spending 20 years trying to figure it out and going for 50,000 courses and all the rest of it, here's a shortcut.
Yeah.
But it's that.
Yeah.
That's what I love. And I suppose, that's
okay. No, and that makes perfect sense. I think we share that. That's why, I'm doing the show as well for the similar reason, to shortcut your path to success, to get to that next stage of your life, personally, professionally. And for my last question, Nima, I think you've answered this in many different forms throughout the show today. But if we're going to drill it down to sign us off, what is the message you'd like everyone to take home with them today?
Be deliberate and intentional about what you want more for yourself and what you don't want for yourself. When you define what you want, people have to know you for that expertise. So how are you going to make that bit happen? So really, the thing is, time ticks one way, and we don't get it back. We don't own time, but we can use it. We can leverage it. One, it is important to surround yourself with like-minded people. It is important to buy somebody else's 10,000 hours, which you've said that you have, and I've done that with various things. And it's important to know that you don't have to suffer in silence and alone. Really, that's the thing. So for me, really, especially today, for me, dignity is high on the list. Choice and options are high on the list. If you don't take ownership of your path, your credibility, becoming known for what you want to do more of, you're just going to end up being in service to some other paymaster who can do whatever the hell they want to you or to other people. And you just take it. So don't do that. Take ownership. Take ownership of your credibility. It's the only thing you own. That's my big message. If I can help you with that, I would be more than happy. Yeah. If this appeals to you, then you're the right person for us. Do you know what I mean? Because I think we've been very specific about how we operate.
Yeah, I think we have it. I think that's a beautiful message. I think it really encapsulates everything we've talked about today. And more than that, I hope people finally wake up to realize that I think the way the world is moving now, everything is, and this is a lot of my recent conversations my guests have taught me this, which is we're moving right now to a very digital, lifeless world of automation. And kind of like what you said, communication is the currency of the future, and human connection and trust and ethics are going to be the glue and the thing that separates people and to make people stand out. And I think a point that I really want to just finish on that you've mentioned before is don't wait to do it. Oh. You don't have to wait
until
you should start it now.
Yeah. There's one thing that you mentioned, if I may, personal branding. So we live in an era of a flood of information. AI, it's all out there. Our brains are overwhelmed. Nobody's listening. Nobody's reading. If they do, they're skimming. Oh, AI generated this. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So this is a huge problem because, how the hell do I cut through? And how do I? So people have said to me, how do I stand? How do I get people to listen? How do I sound like me, not just like an AI generated thing? Because of this flood, this is the perfect opportunity for you to take ownership of your bloody knowledge and difference. So it's about your opinion, your insight, your experience, the way you get results, the way you do your work, right? Like nobody else has written this book. It's the way I think and what I do. Mm-hmm. So you need to, again, take ownership of that stuff and start with it.
Yeah.
Do not start with an AI-generated bullshit thing that's got the nice arrows or whatever else, Yeah. And to actually end on your point, which is when you started writing as you speak, everything changed. When I work with people, if they're told to write something, they go into default academic prove myself mode.
Yes.
Boring.
Yes.
Switch off. Oh my God, I can get this off Google. I don't need you as a credible, amazing human being to tell me this. Stop. Tell me stuff that only you can tell me. Don't give me Google. I have a thing that I say, don't give me Google. Yeah. So really the bottom line is this, you're human, lean into it. You're unique you've had your unique set of experiences and everything. Lean into them, Start with that, but from the perspective of the person you want to hear from. When I get people to speak their thoughts into a voice note on their phone, ideally when they're out in motion, on a bike, walking, on a treadmill, doesn't matter what they're doing, cooking, yeah, the way they show up is a totally different person. Transcribe that. That is what you communicate.
Yeah.
Because you are liberating your mind from the keyboard, your academic self, the boring robot. You want to be interesting you.
I couldn't think of a better way to end the podcast. Nima, I want to say first of all, thank you so much for your time and for coming on the show today. I knew from our first initial conversation this would be a fantastic recording, and it has blown all my expectations out the water. I've learned so much from you personally. This is an area I'm very passionate about. It's an area I'm trying to build as a speaker. I think you bring, given your incredible experience and 30-year career speaking to thousands of people, you really have an understanding of what connects people, how to get your message across. Even throughout our recording, I was sitting listening to you and I'm just mesmerized. I'm like, how the fuck? Like, why do I want to listen? How is she saying it like that? Like, I would love to say it like that one day. And I just want to say, I hope people, if anyone listening, really reaches out and, you know, checks out your stuff, because not only there's the book, she has some amazing, really, really great videos and content on YouTube that I've consumed that have been also very helpful to me. So,
and I've got the programs as well.
And the program as well. So
can I just...
Yeah, please, yeah.
So it's the idea of... I created online courses before COVID.
Sure.
And the biggest learning I had is information is everywhere. Even if I'm doing it my way, the benefit is when people can feed off of your knowledge. So I have a group program where people can join, and there's the on-demand information, there's the group setting information, and there is the, what I call the bounce. So you can ask me questions and get feedback and so on.
Yeah.
And of course the private one-on-one.
Sure.
But it's really important because that is the gold that nobody gets unless you provide it. And that's what I want to teach my people to do it for themselves in the future. So not just about being known for their expertise and on stage and on a podcast, etc., but it's actually, how do I become known for this and help the people who are behind me to benefit from what I do? So I've got programs, they can get in touch.
Yeah, where can we get in touch?
So the easiest path is go to thebrilliantcommunicator.com.
Okay.
All one word.
Okay.
Thebrilliantcommunicator.com, and just subscribe to my newsletter.
Awesome. I'll make sure to put everything, all the links, all the books, everything in the show notes. Nima, thank you so much.
You
This has
are
been
welcome.
amazing. This has really been a pleasure.
It's been good fun. I'd love to know what people take away from it.
I will let you know. Guys, to everyone listening, thank you so much. Please make sure to like, share, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. I hope it helps. Pod on all channels. And as always, guys, hope it helps. Peace.
Yay! That was probably the longest podcast you've ever done.
And that's another episode in the bag, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. The goal of this podcast is to provide, as I like to call it, education on demand. We cover a wide range of topics, and the goal is to provide you with the knowledge, the tools, and the insights to improve your lives both personally and professionally. And if you're enjoying the show and you're enjoying the content, if you could please do me the small favor of hitting that subscribe button, would really help me build the show and build the channel, and that's all I ask. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations, bigger guests, and as always, guys, hope it helps. Peace.